Howdy ho, neighborino, and welcome back to a beautiful check-in of reading this year. Honestly, I won't lie, for a halfway point check-in of the year, I have read absolutely not the best. I've read better than my first year fully getting back into it, but then worse than last year. But it was, reading is still reading, and the average person reads only one book a year, and therefore I'm already knocking it out of the park. And so I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the 19 books I've picked up so far and a little bit of my thoughts, but no spoilers, so let's get through it. So the first book I read was Becoming Free Indeed by Ginger Duggar, and that was a letdown. I gave it a 0.5 star rating. It was a library audiobook, and I finished it January 13th. It was very much, I don't know what I expected. I think I expected her to not per se agree with her family's actions, or at least write them off, and she kind of did, and so it wasn't for me, and so not for me. But let's move on to the second, which was Out of Shape, Worthless Loser by Gracie Gold. And that I gave 5 stars, and it was a library audiobook, and I finished that January 22nd. And that was an incredible book. And so if you're looking for a good memoir, especially when it comes to Olympic season and a figure skater and about mental health, I think it's a really good book. I know it doesn't hit well for everybody, but it is a good outlook into what it looks like as an Olympic figure skater, especially during her time. But let's move on to number 3, which was Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, and I gave that a 3.75 star. It was a library audiobook, and I finished that January 30th. And with Great Big Beautiful Life, I did enjoy it per se, but it was just lacking a little bit. I think it's just because I didn't like the romance, but I did like everything else, and so I couldn't give it a 5 or a 4, and so that's why. But let's keep going to book 4, which was Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I gave that a 2.75 star, which was a library audiobook, and I finished that February 9th. And honestly, it was moments where I really enjoyed how intelligent our main author was, but then at the same time, our main character then came off very unlikable, and just at times I struggled to really want to keep reading it and even just like it, and so that's why I didn't rate it as high. Let's move on to book 5, which was Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala, and I gave that a 4.75 star. It was the library audiobook, and I finished that February 20th, and I love this book. I love this series. I just finished the second book in the series, and I'll talk about that later, but it's such a beautiful world. I love it, and I just find myself wanting to read more of them, so let's keep going. Then I read book 6, which is back here. It is Alchemized, and I gave this a 5 star, and it was Alchemized by Sen Lin Yu, and they were incredible book, but 5 star library audiobook, and then I later bought it and reread it, and I want to reread it fully. I love how I can't speak, but I finished it March 8th, and it was an incredibly well done book. There was so many, it's not a romanticy, it is a dark fantasy story, and I think that yes, there's a love story, but it is mostly the sadness of war and how war can affect you and your world. And I think that I really respect the author for their values and how they stand, and I enjoyed the book a lot, and therefore I want to reread it, and it's so good. It made me cry. Let's move on to book 7, which was Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Soon Lin Tan, and she's back here as well, and I gave her 5 stars. It's a physical book, and I finished it on March 9th, and this book was incredible. I loved it. It was so good. I loved the world building. After something as crazy as Alchemized, that was perfect. I loved it. Great, amazing. I actually can't wait to read the second book, and I think it's a trilogy, and I'm very intrigued to see what happens next on our Daughter of the Moon Goddess's journey. And then let's go on to book 8, which is Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. This was a Libby audiobook. I finished it March 11th, and I give it 4 stars, and honestly, it was a good book. I think that she writes incredibly. It is a sad story, and I think that a lot of people have a struggle of because there's darker topics in the story, they think that it is okaying it, but no, like, we need to write of what we know and the life that we know. And in this book, as you read it, you do know that the author's not allowing these topics. If anything, the further on in the book you get it, if you have the media literacy, you know that it is a sad story, and it is a story that several young women have to deal with, and I think it deals with it very well. And the last part of the book really encapsulates like the stance of it being not good. And so let's move on to book 9, which was Funny Story by Emily Henry, and she back there as well. And this was a physical book, and I finished it March 18th, and I gave it a 5-star. And this was incredible. I actually really enjoyed it. After the other Emily Henry book, I was a little worried, but I actually really liked it. I'm glad I stuck out with it. A lovely librarian energy and the small town feel. It was really great. And so let's move on to The Academy by Ellen Hendebrand. She's back there as well, and I gave her 2 stars, and I finished her March 19th. And honestly, I don't know. So I honestly did not like this book per se as much as I thought I was going to. It was my first Ellen Hendebrand book. Everybody says it's really good, but I didn't like reading about grooming, about children. Teenagers are still children, and I didn't like being in the mind space of someone who is grooming a child, so not for me. Let's move on. The next book was book 11th, which was There Is a Rio Grande in Heaven by Ruben Reyes Jr. It's a physical library book that I read, and I finished it March 31st, and I gave it a 2.25 star. It's a good book. It was interesting to see the life through the lenses of these short stories, and I enjoyed it. It just wasn't hitting perfect for me, but it was still a really good read, and I enjoyed it. And if you want to read something from that perspective, it'd be really good. The next book is book 12, which was You Are Here by David Nichols, and she's back there. She's a physical, and I finished it April 28th, and I gave it a 4.25 star, and it is a very interesting introspective read. It is a little bit on the slower end, and so it may not be for everybody, but it is really interesting. And, you know, what would you do if you went on a walk coast to coast in the UK, or, you know, I think it's the UK, oh my gosh, or England, yes, from one coast to the other coast, like in the middle, in the smallest part, and you just walked and talked, and this is really what that book is, and it's very introspective. You're really thinking about it, and it's a slow read, but it's good. And the next book that I read was Recursion, which was book 13, and it was by Blake Crouch, and it was an audio library book. And I finished this May 27th, and I give it a 4.75 star, and it was incredible. Honestly, such a good book, but I think you need to be able to you need to keep your mind on the book and really pay attention, because the book does this, a Jeremy something, like if you've seen The Good Place and how time is not lineal, it's like a bunch of loop-de-loops. That is literally this, and oh my gosh, I just spoiled it. I'm so sorry. I spoiled it to a degree, but you do need to really pay attention when reading this book, and I think it's a really good book, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I think I will be checking out more work from this author, as it was really good. And now I have book 14, which was Parable of the Sower, and by Octavia E. Butler, and it was a physical book. She's back here as well, and I finished this May 27th as well, and I gave this a 5-star. This was a really good book. It was very dark. It's very much the sense of, let me distract from my dystopian world to read more dystopian, and it was really good. I didn't know there was a second book to this, and so I'm very interested to see what that is. And it's a very dark story, so do be prepared for very, very dark themes, but I'm glad I read it. But let's move on to book 15, which is The 5-Year Lie by Serena Bowen, and it was a library audiobook. I finished it June 2nd, and I gave it a 3.75 star. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was silly. It felt like a silly TV movie that I really enjoyed, and it had a little bit of twists and turns, and it was fun. At times it did feel unreal. That's why it's a little lower for me, but it was fun. Then book 16, I actually reread The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, and I didn't rate this. I gave this just emotional. It was a physical book. She's back there, and I finished it June 3rd. Let's move on to book 17, which was You Know What You Did by Katie Nguyen. And that I gave a 4-star. It was a library audiobook, and I finished it June 8th, and this is a F. Mine F, 100%. This messed with my mind. It was terrifying. If you had some type of mental health issue and it was used against you, and there's a thriller aspect to it, absolutely terrifying in my mind. Like, scary. So, yeah, I really did enjoy it. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, and I did. So, yeah. Let's move on to book 18. It was Eve by Kat Bonahan, and I gave this a 5-star, and it was a physical book. She back there, and I finished her June 10th. And this was a really good, informative nonfiction. I really do enjoy reading a nonfiction book, and it was just really good to get insight on the female experience, because we should know all experiences of this world and how they made us who we are. So that was a really good book, and so if you're interested, I would say check it out. It's 300 pages, but it's very informative and very good. But yeah. And then my last book that I have to update you guys on is book 19, which is Homicide and Hollow Hollow by Mia P. Mansala. I gave it a 5-star. It was a library audiobook. Finished it June 17th. And it's the second to the one I said earlier, and it was so good. And this is how I know I love her writing. I love her book. Like, I love the book world that we're in, and I'm so excited to keep reading through this chronicle. And also, she released a new book not that long ago, so hopefully I can read through her back catalog and then get to where she is now in her releases. But I really like this author. I didn't expect to end up finding a new author I like this year, and I did. So yeah, that's really cool. But this is a check-in of what I've read in 2026 so far. Have we read any of the same books so far? Let me know. What were your thoughts? Did we disagree? Let me know. Let's talk about it. And this was the best, unspoilerly as I can version of it. And some recommendation if you should read it or not, in my opinion. Just a small little about and just a moment so I can check in with you. We can yap. And yeah, let me know. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.